Hi, this is Sue Jackson, here with another Friday Reads, my quick weekly wrap-up of what I've been reading, and the rest of my family, too. So most of this past week, I was reading The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is a thriller, a psychological thriller. Pretty much everybody's read it all. It's been a bestseller. They've made a movie out of it that's coming out in December. This was my neighborhood book group's pick for October, which worked out great for me because I like to read mystery, thriller, suspense kind of stuff in the fall. So we had our book group meeting yesterday. Well, first I'll tell you what I thought about it. I enjoyed it, maybe because it was hyped so much. I didn't think it was quite as good as I expected it to be. And I mean, it's a fast-paced thriller. It was a very compelling read. I flew through it. I had no problem picking it up every time, and I had a hard time putting it down. So a very compelling read. But here's what happened. I guessed almost all of the twists, maybe all of them, before they were revealed. And the thing about that is, I never, ever can do that. Books, movies, it doesn't matter. I'm always shocked by the twists. I was talking a few weeks ago about my husband reading a book where the twist just blew me away, and there were a bunch of them. And then he read it and he was like, oh, I saw it coming. So that's my husband. He always sees the twist coming, and I never do. I'm a very gullible reader. I just get fully immersed in the story. I go where the author's leading me, and I'm always shocked. And I wasn't here. One thing that was fun, we spent this past weekend, every fall, I rent a house on a lake for just our family. Us, my husband and I, our two sons, their girlfriends. There was just one girlfriend this year. The other one couldn't make it. But my younger son's girlfriend, who was there with us this past weekend, had already read this before. So it was really fun reading it and having somebody to talk to about it. And she was good. She did not spoil it at all for me. But, you know, I'd come down from my nap and say, okay, I think I know what's going to happen. And I'd tell her, and she'd be like, don't know, we'll see. And then, you know, the next morning after I read some at bedtime, I've been like, yeah, exactly what I said. And she was laughing. So it was fun to have somebody to talk to about it with. So that was my experience. Fun read, really weird that I knew what was coming because I never do. And then I got to book group yesterday, and I wasn't the only one. There were like, of the, how many of us were there? There were maybe 10 of us there, and like 4 or 5 said the same thing that I did. Before I even said that, they said, well, I knew what was coming. I knew this was going to happen, and blah, 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 and I knew that person was... And yeah, so I think as far as psychological thrillers go, I guess the author gave a little too much away in the hints and foreshadowing. Now, it's extremely rare for me to guess what's coming, but several other people did too. Now, some people in my book group loved this book. So this was another book. The same thing happened last month, where our ratings, we rate books out of 10. And our ratings at the end ranged from 2 to 10. A wide range. Some people absolutely loved it. A couple of people that weren't able to make it to the meeting had said, you know, usually if someone can't make it, they'll send an email to the group and say, this is what my rating is. Those were a 9 and a 10, and both of them had read the other 2 books in this series. Some of our group just thought the writing was so poor that they just couldn't really enjoy it. Others, like me, I ended up giving it a 6, which is like a 3 on Goodreads. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a fast-paced, fun read. If the twist had been a surprise to me, I would have rated it higher. But if I read a thriller, I want to be shocked by the twist. Yeah, so a wide range of opinion on this one in my book group, but we all know that it has been hugely popular. It has been one of the most popular books in recent years. You know, the movie's coming out in December, so, you know, we normally do read books that are a little meatier, that have more emotional depth, but all of us, I think all of us there, do sometimes read thrillers and really enjoy them. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fast. Not the best psychological thriller I've ever read, just because I saw it coming. So I probably will not read more of the series. I am curious to see the movie. And if I guessed what was coming, I'm sure my husband will read this too. And yeah, he will definitely know because he ruins every movie for me. So for my TBR Harvest Pumpkin Patch, I marked that one off as a series read and as scenic reading because of where I read it. Yeah, I read most of it on the shores of that gorgeous lake. So beautiful. Just, I would love to live on the water somewhere. Now, we like doing this in the fall because it's always peaceful. I'm sure during the summer, this particular lake and many here in the Northeast are just jam-packed with motorboats and people and loud music and screaming and, you know, but this time of year, very beautiful, tranquil place. As usual, in between books, I squeezed in some short stories from the collections that I've been working on all fall. 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart by Jenna Rose Nethercott. She was a Booktopia author last year. I read a few of the stories here before Booktopia last year, but I've been working my way through it this fall. So the one I just read, I really enjoyed, and that was Drowning Lessons, about a young woman who has drowned over 20 times in her life. And, you know, these are all kind of magical realism, fantasy, fairy tale type elements. So this is about a young woman who, like, water is attracted to her. And even if she tries to avoid it, she ends up drowning. And she drowned in a slushy one time. I mean, she can, the drink, she can drown anywhere. And her younger brother is kind of like trying to protect her all the time. So I found this really, really interesting. I'm not a big fan. I've said this before. Fantasy, fairy tale, not always my thing. But this sort of story where these are real people in the real world who happen to be dealing with something unusual. I like that kind of stuff. And I thought the character development was really good here. And like under 20 pages, you just get a really good idea of who this brother and sister are, what their relationship's like, what life is like for this young woman. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And I read more of Haunted New Orleans, Southern Spirits, Garden District Ghosts, and Vampire Venues, retold by Bonnie Stewart. This is a book that combines history with people's real life experiences of ghosts and hauntings in New Orleans. We used to live there, so I know these places that they're talking about, which makes it all the more creepy. If you want to end spooky season reading with some really spooky stuff, I highly recommend this. So this first section that I've been reading has all been about haunted hotels. And I just read the Dauphine Orleans Madam. Just fascinating stuff. So she starts each chapter with like a modern day person's experiences, whether it's a tourist or somebody who lives in the city, what they experienced, and then she goes back and tells you the history of that location. So at this beginning part with the hotels, many of them, this is New Orleans we're talking about, which I think makes this all the more interesting because it's got such a long, varied history. So what's on the site now, it might be a hotel now, but maybe 200 or 300 years ago, it was, in this case, a brothel or an orphanage, or somebody's private home. And many of these buildings and lots over the years during war times, like during the Civil War, were turned into medical hospitals. So that's where you get some of the hauntings from. Just fascinating, spooky, just absolutely delightful. It's really fun. And all year long, I've been reading the Penguin Book of Ghost Stories from Elizabeth Gaskell to Ambrose Bierce, selected by Michael Newton, along with the Book Cougars podcast. This is their year of reading ghost stories, and this was their year-long read-along. So I got behind. I haven't been keeping up with them, but I've been saving, like, when I listen to their podcast, I stop when they start talking about a ghost story I haven't read yet, and then I go back to it after I've read it. Oh, and I'm more than halfway now. So the one I just read was one of the longest ones in the book. It was 30 pages long. The Open Door by Margaret Oliphant. So I had never heard of Margaret Oliphant, but apparently she was an extremely popular writer in her day. Wrote, I think, like dozens and dozens of novels. At the back, besides some footnotes, there is also a little bio of each of the authors. Yeah, it says she published almost 100 novels during her lifetime. So I really enjoyed that story. It was very well done. It falls into the category of a religious ghost story. It's resolved through religion. So that's been interesting. There have been a couple of those in this collection. Just really interesting to read all these different kinds of ghost stories. Also, thanks to the Book Cougars podcast, on their last podcast a couple of weeks ago, they were discussing 2 additional ghost stories, short stories that were not in that collection. The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde, which I listened to on audio last month and really enjoyed, and also The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, one that I have read many times before, at least 2 or 3 times. I probably read it in school, and I read this whole little book, reread it a few years ago. So The Mask of the Red Death. So I reread that again. It's a really creepy one. It's a very short story, and but the way Poe creates this atmosphere, it's just excellent. And all year long, I've been working on Ghost Story Bingo with the Book Cougars, and there was a special space just for The Mask of the Red Death and for the Canterville Ghost, so I checked those off. Oh, and I just realized I have a graphic novel that includes a ghost. So I'm going to try to fit that in before the end of the month as well. Actually, this goes all year long, but I like to do my spooky reading in the fall. And finally, I have just started The Sirens by Amelia Hart. Not my usual kind of book. It's got elements of fantasy in it, magical realism. I don't know yet exactly how it would be classified. I don't normally read a lot of that, but this book came highly recommended. It was one of many books that were recommended by the booksellers at Northshire Books, at Booktopia in May, that annual book event I attend every May in Vermont. One of the booksellers talked about this. And then several of my other friends from Booktopia have also read it and also said, not my usual kind of book, but I loved it. So I'm enjoying it so far. It was a little confused. Now, I'm only I'm only 24 pages in. It was a little bit confusing because I started reading it, realized it was about two sisters, and at the very beginning, one of the sisters is traveling to see the other sister, in Australia in this case. And all of a sudden, a couple of months ago, I watched a TV series called The Sirens about two sisters, and one sister travels to see the other one. In this case, it was traveling from Buffalo, New York to New England. But I was like, oh, is this the same book? Is this the same story? I don't think it is, because this one already has some sort of paranormal elements to it. Now, I actually like paranormal stuff. If that's the kind of fantasy that's in here, then this might be right up my alley. The opening scene is the younger sister's at college, and she wakes up one morning to find she is choking one of her male classmates. She is on top of him in his bed with her hands around his throat. She went to sleep in her own bed. And she realizes she was sleepwalking, something that she has never done, though she knows her older sister used to do that when they were younger. So, and this guy had done something really awful to her. This was all done in her sleep. So, in a panic, she packs a bag, takes off to go see her older sister, see if she can shed some light on what's going on. It opens up with a prologue, and we also see that this younger sister is also having vivid dreams of things that she has never experienced, and of through other people's eyes. So, like I said, only 20 so pages in. That's all I know so far. But I'm already invested. I want to find out what happens next. I'm looking forward to reading more. My husband just started reading Run by Blake Crouch. I got him this one, I think, for his birthday this fall. We're both huge fans of Blake Crouch. You can see some of his more recent sci-fi thrillers up here. Dark Matter is one of my favorite books. This was the first novel Blake Crouch wrote. Blake Crouch is also a big-time TV screenwriter. So the TV show Wayward Pines, he did the screenwriting, and it was based on his novels. Another TV show that we loved, Good Behavior. He did the screenwriting and was based on some of his novellas. As a screenwriter, you know he can write really vivid, fast-paced stuff. So this was the first novel he ever published. And we love his latest stuff so much. We're going back and reading some of his back catalog. So he's just started that. Very surprisingly, our older son this weekend wasn't reading anything. He had just finished A Crown for Cold Silver by Alex Marshall, which he enjoyed. It was a book he bought up in Maine on a vacation trip they took over Labor Day weekend. And he said he just hadn't started anything new yet. So during downtimes this weekend, he was on his Nintendo Switch playing a game that he loves. He's into epic fantasy with his books, and he really likes playing games like Age of Empires, Assassin's Creed, that are, kind of historical fantasy. Loves that stuff. So that's what we're all reading this week. Please let me know in the comments down below what you're reading.